Discover 12 life-changing speeches revealed, hidden motivation to transform you in 2 hours. In the small town of Maplewood, the crisp autumn evenings wrapped their vibrant colors around Sarah like a tight hug. The comforting scent of homemade apple pie wafted through the streets, mingling with the laughter of children kicking up leaves. But beneath this picturesque facade, Sarah felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. At 38, she was a single mother working 2 jobs, cleaning offices during the day and waiting tables at the local diner each night. All she wanted was to secure a brighter future for her spirited 16-year-old daughter, Emily. When the news broke about the local factory's impending closure, anxiety crept through the community like a thick fog. Friends turned into strangers, conversations cut short in apprehension. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that their dreams of a better life were slipping away, not just for her family, but for all of Maplewood. And as the fear settled in, she felt a surge of responsibility to do something about it. One evening, after a long shift, Sarah found herself scrolling through her phone. That's when she stumbled upon the collection of powerful speeches. The voices of hope and courage seemed to ignite something deep within her, like a match striking in a dark room. These weren't just words, they were lifelines. Inspired, she decided to organize community meetings, urging her neighbors to unite and fight against despair. But as her voice grew louder, so did the divisions. Whispers of resentment filled the air, splitting families over who was more deserving of help. The tension hung like a thick veil, and Sarah found herself grappling not just with financial insecurity but with the very fabric of her community. Each meeting seemed to deepen the cracks rather than heal. And then came the moment of chaos. An ill-fated attempt to rally people around the factory sent ripples of uncertainty through the crowd, leaving Sarah disheartened. Despair washed over her, magnified by the worried eyes of Emily, reflecting her own fears. In that heart-wrenching moment, Sarah stood before her neighbors, trembling with raw emotion. "Enough!" she cried, her voice quivering but strong. Tears glistened in the eyes of those gathered as she poured her heart out. With every word, she painted a picture of sacrifice, shared struggles, and the unbreakable bonds of family. "We are more than our circumstances. We are a community." The air buzzed with emotions, hope intermingled with fear, and tears broke the silence that hung heavily. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Sarah's words resonated through the crowd, hope flickered even in the darkest corners of their hearts. For a moment, it felt like they could rise above the turmoil together. But as they dispersed, unspoken resentment simmered beneath a fragile surface, and Sarah couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. Just as optimism began to shimmer, her phone rang with a message that could shatter everything she fought for. Would they unite and heal their divisions, or would the weight of their prejudices drag them all down? The question echoed in her mind as she braced for the storm ahead. The message flickered on her phone screen, pulling Sarah out of her thoughts. As she read the familiar name, a chill gripped her. It was from Tom, the foreman at the factory, someone she thought she could trust. "We need to talk," it said, "come to the diner tomorrow. It's important." What could he possibly want now? Her heart raced with concern as she pocketed the phone, knowing that whatever he had to say might send more waves through an already shaken community. She stared out into the dimly lit streets, where the shadows of uncertainty danced between the bustling streetlights. That night, with sleep evading her, Sarah sat at the kitchen table, half-heartedly munching on the pie Emily had baked earlier. For a moment, the comforting sweetness was overtaken by the bitterness of the thoughts swirling in her mind. What if Tom was about to tell her that the factory had already made its decision? Would he warn her of layoffs or, worse, impending chaos? Emily walked in just then, her cheerfulness stumbling upon the heaviness in the air. "You okay, Mom?" she asked, concern etched across her young features. Despite her own struggles, Emily always seemed to sense when her mother was in distress. Just weary from work, sweetie. How was school? Sarah replied, forcing a smile. Emily shrugged but couldn't mask her worry. It's fine. Just the usual. We talked about community and unity today. I actually told my friends about our meetings. About what you're trying to do. Pride swelled in Sarah's chest, yet it was punctured by fear. What if Emily was facing backlash at school because of her? The weight of the future felt heavier than the burden of today. She reached over and squeezed Emily's hand, wanting to convey strength, even if she didn't feel it herself. Mom, I know it's hard, but you're making a difference, Emily added, her youthful conviction ringing bright amidst Sarah's doubts. People are starting to listen. You just need to keep going. As they sat quietly, the reality of their situation bore down on them. Would they really be able to mend the fabric of their community before it completely unraveled? The following evening, Sarah stepped into the diner, anxiety coiling tightly inside her. The scent of frying food filled the air, making her stomach churn. She scanned the room, and there was Tom, sitting in a booth at the back, his expression grave. Thanks for coming, he muttered as she slid into the seat opposite him. I know things are tense out there. I've got news that affects everyone. As he spoke, Sarah's heart beat faster. Each word felt like a ticking clock, inching closer to an unknown climax. He shared tales of overtime cutbacks, of machinery shutting down, of families already struggling, but also something else. There was a spark of hope buried beneath the rubble. Something that could potentially bring the community back together. But we can't fix this alone, he said, leaning closer. We need a figurehead, someone to rally the troops. I think that person could be you. A rush of emotions cascaded through Sarah. Could she really be the catalyst they needed? Did she have the strength to push through the chaos and unite them all? Just as she was about to respond, the diner door swung open, and a sudden gust of cold air rushed in, carrying with it shouts and commotion from the street. People were gathering, eyes wide with panic, and Sarah sensed a storm brewing outside. What is happening? She asked, dread creeping in. And as the first cries of confusion echoed in the air, she realized that the battle to unify Maplewood was about to intensify in ways she could never have anticipated. Would she rise to the occasion, or would the waves of fear threaten to pull her under once again? The questions clawed at her thoughts, leaving her on the brink of both trepidation and determination. The moment of truth beckoned. What she would choose next could change everything. The diner's atmosphere shifted as the door swung open, shrieks of panic slicing through the air like shards of ice. Sarah's instincts kicked in, and she turned to Tom, their earlier conversation overshadowed by the chaos unfolding outside. What's going on? She pressed, anxiety already bubbling in her stomach. Tom stood, looking through the glass pane embedded in the door. His brows were furrowed, and Sarah could feel the tension in his jaw. Reports echoed from outside, voices raised in urgent tones. I don't know. But it looks serious. We should check it out, Tom replied, his voice low, almost a whisper. With a nod, Sarah pushed herself up from the booth. As they stepped outside, the cold air hit her like a slap, sending a chill racing down her spine. The street was a swirl of voices, and the crowd thickened, drawing them closer. A mix of worry, fear, and anticipation thrummed in the air like an electric current. They maneuvered through the gathering, and as they approached the front, Sarah's heart sank. A small group of factory workers stood at the center, their faces painted with distress. One of them, Gary, someone she'd seen many times, was practically shouting, his hands waving in the air. They're shutting us down. He exclaimed. The factory is closing for good. They're firing everyone. Gasps erupted from the crowd, and Sarah felt the ground beneath her shift. Disbelief clouded her vision. She had heard the whispers, the rumors, but to hear it stated so bluntly sent a wave of nausea through her. Families depended on that factory, families like hers. No. This can't be happening. She shouted, pushing her way through the throng. Others echoed her sentiments, voices rising higher, tinged with anger and confusion. Tom placed a hand on her shoulder, grounding her. "Sarah, we need to calm everyone down," he urged, urgency lacing his words. "If they think they'll lose everything, they'll panic." She nodded, taking a deep breath. "Everyone, listen." Her voice cut through the noise, and slowly, the crowd began to quiet, turning toward her. Faces filled with worry turned upward, seeking reassurance. "I know you're scared. We all are. But if we work together, maybe we can find a way through this." Her words hung in the air, and as she scanned the faces, she saw uncertainty mixed with a flicker of hope. What if they truly banded together? What if instead of crumbling under pressure, they fought? "We've built this community for years," she continued, building her momentum. "We've fought through challenges before. This is no different. We can stand together and demand answers. We won't let fear dictate our futures." Some in the crowd murmured their agreement, a few even nodding fervently. An undercurrent of courage began to hum, and she could feel it swell. "Let us gather at the community center tomorrow," Tom suggested, stepping forward. "We'll organize, bring everyone together. We need a plan." "Right," Sarah said, her voice stronger now. "We can create a coalition to speak with the factory owners and ensure they hear us loud and clear. We deserve our jobs and our dignity, and we can't let them take that away." With every word, she felt the belief she was fighting for ignite within her. The group rallied around her, and she couldn't help but feel the warmth of their shared determination. As they dispersed, Sarah felt Tom's presence beside her. "You have a gift, you know," he remarked, admiration lighting his eyes. "Maybe you really are the leader we need." But just as Sarah contemplated the weight of that title, a distant siren wailed, piercing through the hopeful buzz that had just taken root. The sound echoed, approaching quickly, and dread bubbled back to the surface. "What now?" Tom asked, his unease palpable. Sarah couldn't shake the sense that they were only at the beginning of something far more dangerous. "Whatever happens next," she whispered, her heart racing. "It's just the start." As shadows lengthened and the crowd melted away, the question lingered in the air: could they truly unite and face whatever storm was brewing, or would it tear them apart? Tomorrow loomed large, a day where everything could change once more. The next morning dawned with a heavy mist hanging over the town, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Sarah stood by her kitchen window, clutching a lukewarm cup of coffee, her mind racing with all that could happen at the community center. Her gaze drifted to the street, where the first workers were beginning to filter in, their faces drawn and tense. For many, this was more than just a job, it was their livelihood, their family's future. "Are you ready?" Tom's voice cut through her thoughts. He leaned against the doorframe, a mixture of worry and determination in his eyes. "Ready?" she echoed, taking a deep breath. "I'm terrified, but I can't let them down. Not now." "Then let us do this," he said, stepping forward, his resolve steadying her nerves. They knew the stakes were high. As they walked toward the center, Sarah felt the weight of her role press down on her, but it didn't crush her. It ignited her, filling her with purpose. The community center loomed ahead, a familiar place that now felt charged with uncertainty. When they entered, she was surprised by the turnout. Bodies crowded the room, mingling under buzzing fluorescent lights. Faces, once strangers, now sparkled with a blend of hope and fear. A sudden hush fell upon the group as Sarah climbed onto an old wooden chair, her heart pounding in her chest. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice firm yet unsteady. "I know we're facing a crisis. But I believe we're in a position to take action to fight for what's right." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. She saw familiar faces nodding in agreement, encouragement igniting the air around her. The factory has been a part of this community for as long as we can remember. It's given us jobs, it's provided for our families. We can't stand by and let it disappear without a fight. Applause erupted, fueling her energy. Boyd, she pressed on. We need to organize into teams, reach out to the media, and demand an audience with the owners. We have the right to voice our concerns. If we unite, we can make them listen. The crowd surged with enthusiasm, palms hitting against palms until the noise seemed almost deafening. Voices blended into a chorus of determination, and Sarah felt her spirit lift at the unity before her. But as the cheers faded, a shadow flickered at the door. Sarah's heart dropped. A group of men in sharp suits stepped inside, their expressions regal and unmoving. They seemed out of place in this gathering of working-class citizens, and every instinct in her screamed that they were there to intimidate. Tom caught her eye, his brow furrowed in concern. We should keep our distance. They're here for a reason. But Sarah couldn't pull her gaze away. She sensed something, the smell of change hovering between them and the crowd. Fear washed over her. Would they be here to silence everything she had fought for? Before she could turn away, one of the men stepped forward, a slick smile plastered on his face. We need to talk, he announced, looking directly at Sarah. His voice was smooth, almost too sweet, as if every word carried the weight of a threat. What do you want? She replied, though every part of her screamed to take a step back. His smile widened, and she knew it was a warning. Oh, just to discuss your little movement before it spirals out of control. As the crowd bristled, Sarah stood rooted to the spot, the air thick with tension. With her heart racing, she realized that the battle was only just beginning. Would she stand her ground, or would she let them intimidate her into silence? In that moment, the path ahead became clearer, but infinitely more dangerous. They could either band together against this looming threat or shatter under pressure. What would they decide? The tension crackled in the air like a brewing storm. Sarah could feel the eyes of the crowd shifting toward the men in suits, their expressions a mix of apprehension and defiance. She took a deep breath, drawing strength from their collective anxiety, and stepped down from the chair. Her heart pounded in her chest. This moment could break the spirits of her neighbors or unite them more fiercely than ever. She started, but the suited man interrupted. We're not here to fight, he said, his voice dripping with condescension. We're here to help you see reason. You've stirred up quite the fuss with this rallying cry of yours. A murmur of discontent rolled through the crowd. Sarah caught Tom's worried glance and felt a surge of determination swell within her. She raised her chin, refusing to yield even an inch. What you call a fuss, we call our lives. Our families depend on this factory. You can't just come into our community and dictate terms. His smile faltered for the briefest moment. She sensed doubt creeping into his bravado, and it fueled her. You want to help? Then let us talk about keeping our jobs, about what it means to work hard for our future. Come sit with us and let us show you the real impact your decisions have. The crowd erupted with a mix of support and enthusiasm, chanting her name. Sarah! 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 The men in suits shifted uncomfortably, glancing back at each other for reassurance. Firing us one work. People here will fight back, she continued, while her pulse raced. We deserve to be heard. This community won't break so easily. You underestimate our strength. The lead man stepped forward, his demeanor changing. We're not threatening anyone. But you need to understand the bigger picture. This isn't just about your factory. There are larger dynamics at play. Larger dynamics? Tom barked from the side. This isn't about your corporate games. This is about our lives. Others chimed in, their voices thick with emotion and urgency. Don't let them intimidate you. We can stand together. We have the right to fight. The energy in the room swarmed like a living creature, pulsating with collective anger and passion. The suited men glanced at one another, their facade of arrogance cracking. Enough. The lead man snapped, tone now harsh and demanding. You've stirred the pot, and it's time to settle down before you get burned. We can offer you a deal if you stop this nonsense. Sarah's heart raced as she sensed the impending storm, not just the one brewing at the community center, but within her heart as well. Could she accept a deal that would silence their voices? Or would she risk it all for something greater? Why should we trust you? Sarah challenged, her voice unwavering. Prove to us your words mean anything at all. As silence poured over the crowd, Sarah felt the weight of the entire community's hopes resting on her shoulders. The men shifted again, their confident masks faltering in the face of such raw emotion. Stand with us against their threats, she urged her neighbors, we won't let fear control us. The murmurs of agreement grew louder, voices intertwining in a fierce determination. But Sarah knew the road ahead would be treacherous. Uncertain shadows loomed not just over the factory, but over their futures. And she sensed this was just the start of their battle behind her. The men exchanged glances, their strategy slipping from their grasp. What they didn't realize was that Sarah had ignited something far beyond a fight for jobs. She had ignited a fight for the very soul of the town. Suddenly, one of the men shifted closer, fingers gripping the edge of the podium. You think this is a game? There are consequences to your actions. And when the dust settles. His voice trailed off ominously, sending a chill down Sarah's spine. What were the real stakes they would face? As the crowd held their breath, the question hung heavy in the air. Would they rise together to face whatever came next, or would they unravel in the face of intimidation? Sarah looked at her friends, their fierce resolve flickering like a flame. Ready to ignite. The moment seemed to stretch on, pulsing with anticipation and dread. What would be their next move? A heavy silence fell over the room, and the air felt thick with uncertainty. Sarah stood her ground, but inside, she was wrestling with her emotions. What would come next? She glanced at Tom, who fixed her with an encouraging nod, as if urging her to keep standing firm. This was their fight, their future hanging in the balance. The suited man composed himself, his expression flipping between annoyance and intrigue. You want to play the hero, but you don't have the whole picture. People like you don't understand the stakes involved. There are layoffs coming, and you should be making peace, not enemies. A wave of anger washed over the crowd. They weren't looking for peace at any price. They wanted justice, security, a chance to work hard and earn a living without fear of losing it all. Every factory has faced downturns, Sarah shot back. But this community has weathered storms before. We are not helpless. We will stand together. Cheering erupted, and for a moment, the roar of their voices drowned out the suit's feigned calm. A look of irritation crossed his face. Fine. Then we can play it your way. But remember, the consequences fall on you. You don't want to escalate this. You don't want to draw attention from those who really hold the control here. The implication hung heavy. Sarah's heart twisted. What do you mean? But instead of answering, the men shifted. The lead man exchanged glances with his colleagues, then retreated, muttering something Sarah couldn't quite hear. What's that supposed to mean? Tom snapped, stepping forward. You can't just walk away after throwing around threats like that. The suited men remained silent, stepping back with cold faces, yet their retreat left a bitter taste behind. The crowd simmered, voices rising in confusion and fear. Take a breath, everyone, Sarah implored, her arm raised to calm the anxious murmurs. We won't let intimidation dictate our actions. We'll hold our heads high and find the solutions together. Yet inside, doubt crept in. What other powers were they up against? And what were the consequences if they pressed on? In that charged atmosphere, a woman from the back stepped forward, pushing through the crowd. Sarah, what do we do next? Her voice quaked, but the determination in her eyes ignited something in Sarah's heart. We plan, Sarah replied, her voice steadying. We gather stories, we rally together, we reach out to others who have faced the same struggles. There has to be solidarity beyond this town. Remember the last time we fought back? Someone shouted. When they tried to close the old mill? Exactly. Sarah caught on, her heart pounding with adrenaline. And we won then. We will win again. This isn't just about our jobs, it's about our community and how far we're willing to go for each other. Every face turned toward her, hope igniting in their eyes. This wasn't just a struggle, it was their lives on the line. Some raised their fists into the air, calling out support. But deep inside, Sarah felt a flicker of doubt. Was she truly ready to lead them into a battle that might change everything? What would the fallout be if they did not succeed? As the crowd buzzed around her, she caught a glimpse of the men lingering at the door. The tension between them and her community electrified the atmosphere. They were in this fight, and they were not backing down. Let us meet tomorrow evening, all of us, Sarah declared, her voice ringing with authority. This is just the beginning of our fight. A new fire burned in her soul. They were about to start something monumental. But what would it cost them, all of them? As shadows lengthened and uncertainty loomed, Sarah's heart hammered with anticipation. She had to find a way forward, even as doubt danced in the corners of her mind. Would they uncover the truth that could change everything, or would the challenge ahead tear them apart? The next evening, the community hall was filled to the brim. The air buzzed with a blend of anticipation and fear. People were on edge, some pacing back and forth, while others huddled in small groups, whispering. Sarah stood at the front, her heart racing. The showdown with the suited men was fresh in her mind, their cold indifference still gnawing at her. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of a dozen eyes on her. This was the moment she'd been preparing for. Thank you all for coming, she began, her voice steadying as she caught Tom's reassuring gaze from the back of the room. We're here to come up with a plan, not just to fight against layoffs, but to fight for our future. Together. A rumble of agreement filled the room, and a sense of unity surged in her veins. This was their chance to rise above adversity. What do you think the suited man meant? Someone shouted from the crowd. Who's pulling the strings? I don't know, Sarah admitted. But we deserve answers and we'll find them. We can't let fear dictate our actions. The room went quiet. It was the start of the inquiry. They all wanted to know how deep the issues ran, and who was really to blame for the upheaval hanging over their heads. Tom stepped forward, his voice calm yet assertive. Let us begin by gathering information. We have to get in touch with other factories or communities that have faced similar threats. There must be allies out there. Nods and murmurs of agreement rippled around the room. Sarah felt her heart swell. They were eager to fight for something, to secure not just their jobs but their dignity. Also, Sarah added, we need to collect personal stories to humanize this fight. Each of us has a story, our hardships and triumphs. We'll share them in a public forum, spread awareness, and draw support. If we can show others what we stand to lose, someone chimed in, eyes bright with conviction. They'll understand what's at stake. Exactly. Sarah replied with newfound energy. It's easy to look at numbers on a balance sheet, but we're the heart of this community. Our voices matter. The enthusiasm in the crowd swelled. They were alive with purpose now, ready to stand firm. Just as Sarah began to feel a sense of reassurance, a shadow crept into her thoughts. What if they were unable to rally enough support? What if they were overpowered before they even started? Let us also not forget, she continued, that not everyone is on our side. We have to be ready for backlash. The people we're up against play hardball. What happens if they retaliate? One woman murmured, her brow furrowing with fear. They may threaten our jobs or even try to intimidate us. Sarah felt the weight of her words. But we can't let that stop us. Our unity could be our greatest strength. As Sarah wrapped up, the crowd erupted in applause. A wave of empowerment flowed through her. But as she looked out at their faces, she caught a glimpse of a man standing near the back, his expression unreadable. The unease that rose within her chilled her blood. Who was he? Was he there for them, or something far more sinister? "I'll reach out to others tomorrow," Tom said, breaking her thoughts. "Let us not lose momentum." As the crowd slowly dispersed, Sarah felt the uncertainty cluster around her. Who might they be dealing with if they pressed ahead? "Stay vigilant," she whispered to herself, feeling the burden of leadership tighten on her shoulders. She turned toward Tom, who was still standing nearby. "We need to dig deeper into this. Find out exactly who we're up against." And as they walked out of the hall together, a shiver ran down Sarah's spine. The fight had only just begun. Would they uncover the truth and survive whatever awaited them? The following day dawned with a heavy mist clinging to the trees. Sarah awoke with a sense of urgency in her chest. Today was critical. As she brewed her morning coffee, she glanced out the window and couldn't shake a feeling that the air felt charged, as if something was about to break. After a quick breakfast, she met Tom at their usual spot, the small diner that had become their headquarters of sorts. The smell of greasy bacon filled the sealed space, the clinking of plates and murmuring voices blending into a comforting yet tense atmosphere. She picked at the edge of her toast, her mind racing with thoughts of their next steps. "We need a list of all the factories nearby," Tom said, putting down his cup. "We should see who has been affected like us." "Exactly," Sarah replied, her pulse quickening. "And we should reach out to local reporters. If we can get some media attention, it could draw wider support. We have to make them listen." As they began making notes, an idea struck Sarah, bright and startling. "What if we hold a community rally? We could invite everyone, local businesses, families, anyone who has a stake in this town's future." Tom looked intrigued, nodding slowly. "A rally could bring people together, but we need to ensure they know the stakes, the reality of what is happening. It's not just about jobs, it's about our community's very survival." Their decisions fell into place like a well-worn puzzle, but as the sun crept higher, so did the reality of their situation. They spent hours digging for information, making calls, gathering resources. The more they learned, the darker the picture grew. Layoffs were just the beginning. Rumors of large-scale relocations and plant closures whispered through the industry like a ghost, a haunting reminder of what they stood to lose. By afternoon, Sarah felt worn and frayed, but when the diner door swung open and an elderly woman walked in, the room transformed. Eleanor, the town's unofficial historian, shuffled to their table, her face lined with worry. "I heard about the meeting last night," she said, taking a seat across from them. "I want in. We can't let these people destroy what we've built here." "Of course," Sarah replied, her heart bolstering with every word. "Your stories matter, Eleanor. We need that wisdom." Just then, a low buzz filled the diner as people began to gather. A palpable tension crept as everyone spoke in quiet, urgent tones. Sarah noticed the same man from the hall in the corner booth, now leaning close to a group of men in suits. Her breath hitched in her throat. What were they discussing? "Do you see that guy?" she whispered to Tom, nodding subtly toward the booth. "Yeah. What is he doing here?" Tom said, brow furrowing. Eleanor's gaze followed theirs. "If he is involved with them, you need to be careful. Men like him play dangerous games." Heart pounding, Sarah realized that her instincts had been right. This didn't just involve the factory, it was bigger, messier. It was something that felt like a storm on the horizon. As if on cue, the suited man stood, sweeping the room with a calculating look. It felt like he was sizing them up, a predator among prey. Sarah's mind raced. What did they truly know, and what were they willing to do to maintain control? "Time to act," Sarah declared, her voice barely above a whisper but filled with resolve. "We can't let fear hold us back. We need to rally every voice. We'll reveal the truth and defend our future. The determination in her voice ignited something in Tom and Eleanor. We're in this together, they said, glancing around the diner, feeling the weight of their small community growing heavier. As Sarah stepped outside, the wind caught her hair, a sign of change. She had a gut feeling the fight was just heating up, but the uncertainty that hung thick in the air felt ominous. Who else were they dealing with? And how deep did the betrayal run? Let us get to work, she said, determination stealing her spine as she grabbed Tom's hand. A sense of urgency thrummed between them, setting the stage for what was yet to come. The man in the diner had drawn a line in the sand. Would they be bold enough to cross it? Would they expose the truth before it was too late? The morning sun pierced through the mist, illuminating the small town in a way that felt almost surreal. The weight of the day pressed down on Sarah as she and Tom headed toward the community center. The plan was taking shape, but nerves fluttered in her stomach. They had made flyers and posted them around town, but would anyone actually show up? When they arrived, the center was quieter than she'd hoped. The hard floors echoed as they entered, a stark contrast to the vibrant energy they were about to summon. Sarah looked around, her heart racing. It felt like standing on the precipice before a leap into the unknown. Let us hang the banner first, Tom suggested, visibly attempting to mask his own nervousness. Sarah smiled at him, thankful for his unwavering support. Together, they lifted the large, brightly colored sign, "Rally for Our Future," emblazoned in bold letters. It fluttered slightly in the breeze from the open doors. Moments passed slowly, and with every second that ticked by, Sarah felt the cracks in her confident surface, but she shook them off. Let us set up the chairs. If we build it, they will come. Right then, the front door swung open, and in strode a couple of familiar faces. It was the Martinez family, who owned the local grocery store. Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. Hey! We heard about the rally. Maria Martinez said, her voice infused with enthusiasm. We want to help. Wonderful. You can start with the refreshments, Sarah replied, feeling the tiniest spark of hope flicker to life. As the time drew closer, more people trickled in. Each familiar face, the teachers, students, and families of all backgrounds added to the mosaic of their community. The energy began to shift. They weren't just a group, they were a united front. Sarah stood before the gathered crowd, her heart pounding like a drum. Thank you all for being here. We have a fight ahead of us, and we can no longer stand on the sidelines. She paused, letting the gravity of her words sink in. Together, we can save our jobs. Together, we can save our town. Tom stepped in next. This isn't just about factories or numbers on a report. This is about our dreams, our families, our lives. We can't let others decide our fate for us. Cheers erupted from the crowd, filling Sarah with a warmth she hadn't expected. Then Eleanor took the microphone. Her voice, though aged, rang with fire. I've seen this town, my hometown, weather many storms. We've fought for each other before, and we'll do it again. We will not back down. As she spoke, Sarah scanned the room, noticing nods of agreement and fire kindling in their eyes. They moved as one. Instantly, she felt the weight on her shoulders lighten. The crowd began chanting, "Fight for our future. Fight for our future." But just as the energy reached its peak, the unmistakable figure of the man from the diner appeared in the doorway, flanked by his suit-clad companions, arms crossed and faces expressionless. The room fell silent. Fear threaded through Sarah's chest as the reality of the situation crashed down upon her again. Who were these men? What would they do? What do they want? She whispered to Tom, anxiety bubbling in her throat. This was a precarious moment. Their rally could be the catalyst for real change, but it could also put a target on their backs. As the suited man stepped forward, a grating smile creeping onto his face, she knew something explosive was about to unfold. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice slick, what's going on here? A rally? Really? The tension hung thick in the air like a storm cloud about to burst. Would they stand their ground, or would fear force them to retreat? The outcome of their fight hinged not just on their courage, but on what this man had planned. What could he possibly say next? Sarah thought, her heart pounding as she braced for the storm. "Enough!" shouted the suited man, raising his hands in mock surrender. "We don't want to interrupt this little gathering of yours." His condescending tone sent a ripple of anger through the audience. Sarah felt her heart race, but she knew she couldn't let fear take hold. Gathering her courage, she stepped forward, her voice strong despite the tension. "This isn't a little gathering. This is a rally for our future, our rights, and our dignity. We will not back down." Murmurs of agreement flared in the crowd. The man's smile wavered but quickly returned. "Oh, I admire your spirit, truly. But let us not forget that actions have consequences. You'll find out just how serious things can get if you persist in this nonsense." With every word, he ignited a fire in Sarah. "You can intimidate us all you want, but we will stand together. We are tired of being pushed around. We know what's at stake." Tom joined her, stepping up to her side. "We deserve to know the truth about what's really happening at that factory. It's not just business, it's our lives." Their combined voices echoed, filling the community center with a pulse of resolve. The crowd erupted into cheers, and the atmosphere electrified with fierce loyalty. Even Eleanor, at the front, stood tall, ready to fight for their rights, her face lit with determination. "To show you how serious we are about this rally," the suited man countered, turning to his associates, "we could cut funding and resources, put pressure on your businesses. This isn't just a threat, it's a promise. We can take your threats." Sarah shouted back, heart roaring in her chest. "You underestimate the strength of our community. We have each other's backs. Every person here is worth more than your profits." Just then, a voice broke from the crowd. Gary, one of the factory workers. He stepped forward, brimming with passion. "We've worked hard for years. We've built this community from the ground up. We refuse to stand by while you destroy our lives." The audience rallied behind him, shouting in solidarity. The suits looked uneasy, shifting under the fierce resolve staring them down. The energy in the room surged, and in that moment, Sarah knew they were united. "Let us rally. Let us show them our numbers," she declared, heart soaring. "This town wants to be heard. We will fight for what's right, for our jobs, our families, and our lives." With an overflowing sense of purpose washing over the crowd, they began chanting, "Together. Together. Together." The sound rolled out of the community center, washing over the streets like a wave of hope and defiance. The suited man stepped back, realizing the tide had turned against him. "We'll see how long this lasts," he spat before signaling his associates, who followed him out. As the door slammed shut, a heavy silence enveloped the room, followed by a chorus of relieved sighs. "We just made a statement." Sarah gasped, her heart racing. The weight of fear that had previously gripped her now dissipated, replaced by elation. "We did it." Cheers erupted again, and laughter filled the air as they realized the power they held when united. "Let us keep this momentum rolling," Tom urged. "We're not finished. This is just the beginning." In the days that followed, the community coalesced into a force they had never experienced before. They shared stories, built connections, and reached out to other communities facing similar challenges. The news spread, and soon, their small town was buzzing with support. When election day came to vote on issues that directly impacted their livelihoods, they flooded the polling stations. Sarah stood with Emily beside her, feeling joy and pride swell in her heart as they counted the votes they had rallied together. As the results rolled in, victory filled the room. With a final count, the crowd erupted into cheers. They had won. Together, they had defied the odds. Tears of joy filled Sarah's eyes. She hugged Emily tightly, feeling her daughter's spirit radiate with pride. "We did it, Mom. We really did it." Emily cried out, beaming with pure happiness. Sarah smiled back, realizing they had not only fought for their jobs but for their community, for the spirit of togetherness that connected them all. It was a victory, not just over a factory but over fear itself. As they celebrated under a canopy of falling autumn leaves, Sarah took a moment to breathe it all in. The warmth of triumph wrapped around her like the embrace of the season. They had risen against the storm, emerging stronger, together. Who would have guessed that words could ignite change? Sarah whispered to herself, feeling on top of the world. Together, we are unstoppable. In that moment, she understood that their fight wasn't just for survival, but also about the bonds formed along the way, the strength of community that would carry them into the future side by side, heart to heart. Now, it's time for you to embrace the spirit of this story. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive transformations. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. This is the moment to stand up together. Or share this video right now with at least 5 friends who need to hear this message of hope. Don't wait not even one more second, every action counts. Your journey starts here.